Battlefront released Desert Panzer III and Panzer IV kits as part of their new mid-war plastic range. I'm going to look at both of these kits today in a double review. They're available together in the El Alamein box set, the Rommel's Afrika Korps box, and separately in the Panzer III Tank Platoon and Panzer IV Tank Platoon boxes. These tanks will also be released as expansions for the Tanks skirmish game. Let's look at the plastic. The Panzer III is on a single sprue of light brown plastic. The number of parts is low, but there are still some good options here. For example, there are 3 gun options: the long L60 5cm gun for the Model J to M, the short L42 5cm for the Model F to J, as well as the short L24 7.5cm gun for the Model N. This last version was a support tank for Tiger tank units, while the 5cm armed tanks were primarily gun tanks. There are also standard and up-armoured versions of the front hull near the driver's slit and an armoured mantlet cover for the Model L. Battlefront's designation for Panzer III variants is a bit simplified, specifying them as just the 5cm short, 5cm long and 7.5cm versions. The L model is the Panzer III up-armoured and has its own stat card. Engine deck is a separate part, and the engine deck cover piece is double-sided, so you can model early or later engine access covers. Early engine covers on 5cm short models run left-right, while later 5cm long models run fore and aft. Both options here have the thicker up-armoured hatch covers. Tracks are single pieces with the characteristic 6-wheel torsion bar suspension. The tracks include the side crew escape hatches. These were deleted during the Model L production run, so technically aren't correct for the M and N models. The track and hull pieces are keyed, so they can't be fitted incorrectly. Commander's cupola can be open or closed. The sprue also contains stowage, including a rack of jerry cans and spare track sections. Detail on this kit is crisp and clear. Construction is straightforward and there are some good options. Gun barrels are a bit oversized for the scale, but this is common for current Battlefront plastics and will make for durable table miniatures. Here are the parts for the Panzer IV. Again, this is a single sprue of light brown plastic with a limited parts count. There are 3 gun options here too: the short L24 7.5cm low velocity gun and 2 long L43 7.5cm guns. The short gun is for the Model E and F1, while the long 7.5cm with globular muzzle brake is the Model F2. And the double baffle muzzle brake option is the G model. Again, Battlefront terms these the Panzer IV short 7.5cm, and the others are all termed the Panzer IV long 7.5cm. The long gun options here are cosmetic. The 4th edition stats for these versions are the same. The upper hull is a separate piece, which helps give good engine vent detail on the underside. The upper hull has strong, slightly overscale non-slip tread pattern. This should look great emphasized with a wash during painting. Tracks are one-piece parts with 4 pairs of small road wheels each side. There's nice detail here, and the tracks and hull pieces are keyed so they can't be assembled incorrectly. Commander's cupola can be open or closed. The sprue contains similar stowage to the Panzer III kit, including a rack of jerry cans. Parts are the same excellent quality as the Panzer III, and again the gun barrels are slightly oversized for the scale. Here are the constructed tanks. These are both tidy little kits that look great when built. Level of detail is good and the mouldings are nice and crisp without any flash. The low parts count means they build up quickly for the table, but are detailed enough to really look the part. The Panzer III and IV were the workhorses of the German forces in mid-war in North Africa, and these tank platoon box sets will allow players to build up armies quickly. Let's look at some history. Early German designs like the Panzer I and II were more designed to help train German troops and develop and prepare German industry for tank production than to really be fielded as battle tanks. They were useful in forming German tank doctrine, which was intended to be implemented by later designs. These were the Panzer III and IV tanks, which were designed to work together on the battlefield. The Panzer III, a Daimler-Benz design, was intended as the workhorse, forming the bulk of the armoured force, while the bigger and heavier Panzer IV from Krupp would provide fire support. These Panzer designs all had 3-man turrets, at a time when many other tanks had 2 or even 1. This meant the commander was able to concentrate on his job rather than also acting as gunner or loader. German tank doctrine saw engaging enemy tanks and armoured vehicles as a primary role. Panzer III was initially armed with a 37mm gun, a capable gun at the start of the war. However, this was upgraded to a short 5cm and then later a long 5cm cannon, increasing armour penetration. The Panzer IV's support role dictated its armament, initially a low-velocity 7.5cm gun. The HE round from this gun could be used against infantry, fortifications and anti-tank guns. However, as heavier tanks were encountered, particularly on the Eastern Front, problems with up-arming Panzer III turrets with bigger guns meant the Panzer IV switched over to the anti-tank role. The short 7.5cm was replaced in later Panzer IV models with a longer 7.5cm gun, with significantly better anti-armour punch. Our focus on this review is in the Panzer III and IV in North Africa, so I'm not really going to go further into German tank development here. British tanks in the Western Desert had been more than capable of dealing with Italian designs. However, the arrival of more capable German tanks in 1941 changed the balance in favour of the Axis. Not only were the German tanks superior to the Allied designs, they used superior tactics. British tanks used to charge at German armour, trying to close the range quickly to use their mobility to make them harder to hit, and get into effective range for the 2-pounder gun. German forces developed a sword and shield tactic to counter this, using panzer forces to entice British tanks to charge, then withdrawing them behind a shield of dug-in anti-tank guns. The pursuing British would run into fire from the heavy guns. However, the arrival of US-designed tanks like the M3 Medium Leon Grant, M3 Stuart light tank and M4 Sherman, combined with improved tactical employment, tipped the balance back. As the Germans were forced back in the desert and the war moved into Tunisia and Italy, Panzer IIIs were gradually withdrawn, and Panzer IVs became the mainstay of German armoured formations. Heavy tank support was provided by the heavily armed and armoured Tiger tank, often with Panzer IIIN escorts, but right through to the end of the war, Panzer IV variants with 7.5cm guns were used in combat. Let's look at the vehicle cards. This is the Panzer III tank platoon card. It covers the long and short 5cm and the 7.5cm gun. So this is a tank unit and it has the Stormtrooper special rule. Stormtrooper means this unit may attempt a second, different movement order if it succeeded its first movement order. Afrika Korps Panzer III units are careful, so they're hit on a 4+. They're confident, so 4+ here, but they have Third Reich, so their last stand is 3+. These units will stay and fight. They also have protected ammo, so they remount on a 3+. These are veteran troops, so their skill is 3+. Their armour protection is solid with front armour 5, side armour 3 and top armour 1. The up-armoured Panzer IIIL has front armour increased to 6. British units armed with AT-7 37mm and 2-pounder guns will be struggling here, particularly at long range. Movement is standard with a tactical move of 10 inches or 25 centimetres, terrain dash of 12 inches or 30 centimetres, cross-country dash of 18 inches or 45 centimetres, and a road dash of 20 inches or 50 centimetres. Panzer III's cross on a 3+. There are a number of weapon options here. The short 7.5cm gun has a range of 24 inches or 60 centimetres. It has a halted rate of fire of 2 and a moving of 1. Anti-tank is 9 with a 3+ firepower. This weapon has heat, high explosive anti-tank ammunition, so target armour isn't increased at ranges over 16 inches or 40 centimetres. The short 5cm cannon has the same 24-inch range and rate of fire. Its anti-tank is 8 with a 4+ firepower, with no other special rules. The long 5cm gun has a range increased to 28 inches or 70 centimetres. Anti-tank is 9 with a 4+ firepower. Machine guns have a rate of fire 4 moving or halted, with an anti-tank of 2 and firepower 6. So these are capable vehicles with good armour protection and firepower. They will also stick with a fight and remount if bailed out. This is reflected in the points. 3 Panzer III short 5cm tanks are 15 points, 4 is 20 points and 5 is 25 points. These can be upgunned to long 5cm guns for 2 points each. Panzer IV is similar. It has Stormtrooper, is also rated as careful and has motivation of confident, with Third Reich and protected ammo. Skill is also veteran. Even the armour protection is the same at 5 for front, 3 for side and 1 for top. Movement and cross are the same as for the Panzer III. It's the weapon stats where the big difference lies. The short 7.5cm gun can direct fire to 24 inches, with a rate of fire 2 halted and 1 moving. AT is 7 with a 3+ firepower, and while it doesn't get the heat rule, it does get smoke. This is uncommon for German tanks and could be useful tactically to blind the enemy to hide movement or screen units from incoming fire. But the big feature here is this weapon can also fire an artillery bombardment out to 48 inches or 120 centimeters. This works like normal artillery using the artillery rules and template to fire at an area and has an anti-tank of 2 and a 4+ firepower. The long 7.5cm gun can fire out to 32 inches or 80 centimeters on the table. Rate of fire is 2 moving and 1 stationary, with an anti-tank of 10 and 3+ firepower. This is a very strong anti-tank weapon for this point of the war, and has a good chance of penetrating all Allied tanks in the desert. The Panzer IV's machine guns are also rate of fire 4. There is a cost for all this firepower, but it's not as much as you might think. Short 7.5cm Panzer IVs are about 6 points each, and can be upgraded to long 7.5cm for 4 points each. So that's 10 points for a long gun Panzer IV versus 7 points each for a long 5cm Panzer III. British players will have to try and use numbers to offset the German technical and firepower superiority. With Grants at 6 points each and Crusaders and Honeys at roughly 2 points each, expect to see swarms of these British tanks on the table. So the Panzer III and IV are great additions to the mid-war range. The kits look great. It took a little while to get used to the oversized guns common to all the new plastics, but I can see why it was done, and it makes these durable gaming miniatures. The Panzer IV turret looks like it might be just a touch undersized, but not by much. This might just be the contrast with the overscale gun. The heroic scale of the guns does pose a problem mixing in tanks from other manufacturers. The armour protection here will have Allied tankers manoeuvring for flank shots, and the range and firepower is enough to see off Allied tanks. German players will be happy to see these in mid-war plastics. My Brits are worried that these will be enough of a handful. They aren't keen on seeing the upcoming plastic Desert Tigers. Thanks to Battlefront for supplying this review kit.